Most people imagine aging as something that peaks in the 60s or maybe early 70s. Retirement, grandkids, travel, hobbies. That's the image we sell in magazines and commercials. Smiling faces on cruises, yoga classes under the sun. But very few talk about what happens after 80. As if once you cross that invisible threshold, life becomes a whisper. You rarely see ads celebrating life at 85. The news doesn't spotlight thriving 90-year-olds. And when someone brings up a person in their 80s, the tone softens, like we're speaking of someone who's already halfway gone. But that's a myth. Life after 70, and especially after 80, doesn't end. It just changes in subtle, quiet ways that few prepare us for, and even fewer acknowledge. These years are not defined by loud milestones, but by a slower rhythm, a softer presence, a deeper awareness. And if we're brave enough to look closer, we may find something profound, that these years, though quiet, hold more truth than we ever expected. This is not a story of decline. It's a story of transformation, of healthy aging that isn't just physical, but emotional, and of the power that comes when we stop chasing youth and begin honoring presence. It is about shedding the noise and expectations and learning to live more fully with what remains. It is a rebirth of awareness, where simplicity holds more meaning than spectacle. Sign 1, emotional loneliness. Even when you're not alone, even as the world slows down and softens, there's a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels hollow. This is one of the most quietly painful truths about life after 70. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You might share a home with family. You might hear laughter echoing down the hallway. But inside, there's a quiet ache, one that doesn't always have words. People greet you, check in, bring you tea. But something deeper is missing. Connection. It's not about how many people are around. It's about whether you still feel seen, whether you feel heard, whether your presence still seems to carry weight in the room. When conversations become shallow, when your stories go unheard, a sense of invisibility begins to settle. And the more invisible you feel, the more you start to withdraw. You keep your thoughts to yourself, even when something stirs in you. You nod along, but stop offering your own opinions. You wait for someone to ask how you're really doing, and when they don't, you stop expecting it. Eleanor, 84, lives with her son's family. But between school drop-offs, Zoom calls, and dinner prep, no one really talks with her anymore. She smiles politely, offers thanks at the dinner table, and then quietly retreats to her room. Her body is present, but her heart feels far away. This is a part of senior health that's often ignored, the health of the spirit. And it matters just as much as blood pressure or joint pain. Because elderly wisdom thrives not in isolation, but in reflection shared. But here's a hopeful truth. This loneliness doesn't have to be permanent. One genuine conversation, one handwritten note, one honest answer to "How are you?" These small, sacred moments have the power to restore the connection that makes us feel alive. Sometimes, all it takes to break the silence is the courage to speak first. Sign 2, the body retreats and fear steps in. Loneliness doesn't always come from silence alone. Sometimes, it grows in the spaces left behind by what we no longer do. After 80, the body doesn't shout. It whispers. It hesitates. You begin to pause before getting out of a chair. You weigh whether it's worth bending down to pick something up. Not because you're unwilling, but because your body has begun saying, "Be careful." This slow physical retreat is quiet and unassuming, but it reshapes everything. What began as caution becomes habit, and that habit slowly becomes identity. Henry, 86, used to walk his dog every evening, but after one fall, he stopped. Months later, his strength had faded, not from time, but from stillness. And it doesn't stop with the body. Once you stop trusting your physical strength, doubt seeps into your mind. You begin to ask, what if I fall again? What if I can't get up? What if no one hears me? With every question, your world becomes smaller. You choose the chair over the walk, the silence over the conversation. Caution becomes confinement. But here's the truth. The body remembers. A gentle stretch, a short walk, standing tall while brushing your teeth. These tiny actions whisper back, I'm still here. This is active aging, not in marathons or daring feats, but in daily courage, in reclaiming small moments of power. Every step, every stretch is a message. I am not finished yet. Sign 3, loss of rhythm and purpose. As the body grows quieter and social circles thin, another subtle but profound shift begins. The loss of rhythm and personal purpose. This is the space between stillness and drift, the slow dissolution of a day's shape. For decades, life was marked by structure. You had reasons to get up in the morning. Responsibilities pulled you forward. Appointments, chores, family, errands. Even when life felt busy or overwhelming, it gave you direction. But now, with retirement long behind you and fewer demands placed on your time, the calendar becomes blank. You wake up, but there's no urgency to rise. You prepare lunch, but the hours blur. You sit near the window, not bored exactly, but unanchored. The days feel long, yet strangely empty. Estelle, 87, once led a local book club and volunteered twice a week at the senior center. But after her husband passed and the center closed, those cornerstones disappeared. I feel like a ghost in my own routine, she said. Not ill, not grieving, just drifting. This is where elderly wisdom can gently intervene. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It can live in the small, a morning walk, tending a garden, writing letters. Even setting the table for one can be an act of mindfulness. The key is consistency. Active aging thrives on rhythm. When we reintroduce gentle structure, we awaken the soul. A scheduled phone call, a weekly puzzle night, a devotional hour with tea. These rituals breathe meaning into the quietest of days. Purpose gives direction. Rhythm gives texture. Together, they restore what time has blurred. And that spark, the one that tells you, I matter, begins to glow again. Sign 4. Silent fears and the loss of dignity. While others may see calm, independence, or resilience, many older adults carry silent fears about decline, about becoming a burden, about losing their voice in their own lives. They don't often say it aloud. Instead, it shows in small hesitations, in the reluctance to mention pain, in avoiding requests for help, in masking forgetfulness with a laugh. Because after a lifetime of strength, asking for support feels like surrendering control. Robert, 85, used to be a proud mechanic. Now he struggles with simple tasks, but he won't ask for assistance. I don't want to trouble anyone, he shrugs. But inside, he mourns a confidence that once came so easily. These quiet sacrifices are often misunderstood. They're not pride, they're protection. They're the last defense of dignity. But in the attempt to preserve independence, we risk loneliness. We risk invisibility. But here's what elderly wisdom whispers. Dignity isn't about doing everything alone. It's about being respected and valued, even in vulnerability, being heard, being included, being allowed to need. Advice for seniors over 70. Speak your fears aloud. To your doctor, to your family, to a friend. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's a bridge. And it allows those who love you to truly see you again. Because dignity doesn't live in silence. It lives in honesty, in compassion, in mutual respect. And when you're supported without shame, you're not diminished, you're empowered. Sign 5. Shrinking world syndrome. It begins with one decision. Skipping a lunch. Canceling a trip to the store. Declining an invitation. Then another. And before long, the world outside your door begins to disappear. This is what we call shrinking world syndrome. It's not laziness, it's self-preservation. You're trying to stay safe, to avoid injury, exhaustion, or discomfort. But in doing so, your environment, once vibrant and full, contracts. Lorraine, 89, used to visit the farmer's market every Saturday. After a minor fall, she decided to stay in. Just until I feel better, she told herself. But the weeks stretched into months, and her world, once full of colors, smells, voices, became a hallway, a chair, and a closed window. This shrinking of space leads to a shrinking of stimulation, of emotion, of identity. The senses dull, the spirit fades, and the question arises, do I still belong to the world I once knew? Here's the truth. You do, and you always will. Active aging doesn't demand big travel or risky adventures. Sometimes, it looks like a fresh flower on the table, a neighbor's voice through the screen door, a walk around the garden. Variety is not a luxury. It's brain food. It's heart fuel. Open the window. Rearrange the furniture. Let new light fall on old things. Let yourself stretch gently back into the world. Because no matter how small your world may feel, you are still part of something greater. Final conclusion. These 5 signs, emotional loneliness, physical retreat, loss of rhythm, silent fears, and a shrinking world, are not warning bells. They are invitations, gentle nudges, quiet truths that say, there's still life here. There's still you. Most people think aging is about letting go, but perhaps it's about returning to the things that matter most. Connection, intention, self-respect. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in a season that few speak of, but all eventually meet. And how you live it matters, not just to you, but to the world watching you, the children, the neighbors, the strangers you smile at. Your story still teaches. So if something in these words stirred you, if you saw a glimpse of yourself, know this. It's not too late. Not too late to reach out. Not too late to move. Not too late to speak. Not too late to find joy again. Because you're still here. And that means the story isn't over. Let this be your season of quiet courage. Let this be your chapter of deeper meaning. Let this be your reminder that even in stillness, you are profoundly, beautifully alive. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment with number 1 to let us know you watched the whole video. We appreciate it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more great content. See you in the next video.